Good morning, everybody. So welcome to session Wednesday, 20th of January. So yeah, I managed to get some sleep last night. I'm on a bit of a funny time, just not getting sleep at night. So today I thought I'd look at integration. Basically, one inspiration for that has been covering this book, The Journey and the Guide, in the Manchester Buddhist Centre Tools class. So this is a book by Maitreya Bandhu, who teaches at London Buddhist Centre, and so it outlines the path that Sangharakshita's kind of teaching, which is can be sort of expressed in five factors: integration, positive emotion, spiritual death, spiritual rebirth, and receptivity. So we've been covering in the tools class the first of those, integration. So I wanted to say a little bit about it, and last couple of days as well, I've been getting my imagination chapter kind of into a better state before I can hand it over to my friend Steer Prabha, who's going to edit it. So I've been looking at that again, and particularly some of the ideas of like Samuel Taylor Coleridge around imagination, so I'm going to bring in some of my own bits of art and things that I've along the way that kind of express that a little bit, bringing things together into one place. The role of, in a way, the role of imagination in integration, and mandalas. So I'll talk a bit about mandalas. So I hope it's a good session. It sort of seems to have come together a little bit at the last minute in finding materials and things. So okay. So we'll begin with some body work. If you want to stand up. Okay, so let's just turn it to an angle and then just rocking backwards and forwards. Just let your arms swing. So it's very rare indeed that I don't do some body work at the beginning of a session. I think it might be about 5 times I've not done that in the last 130 odd sessions. So I think with the topic of integration, it's like one principle there is that we need to be bringing our body and our mind into the same places, so that our body supporting our mind with energy and relaxation and stability, and our mind is supporting our body with awareness, intelligence, so we understand what the body is, and we're going to then our emotions are behind looking after the body. So emotions, thoughts, attention, body all part of the human psyche. Well, body isn't actually, but anyway. Maybe take a few deeper breaths. Just notice the difference between when you're kind of driving yourself a bit, like you're just throwing your arms forward and you kind of, there's tension in them and you're just trying to get this out of the way. That's one thing you could be doing, which isn't really going to work. You're just kind of carrying tension along with you. Or you just try and have a kind of relaxed attitude in your mind and then just moving your torso backwards and forwards, and then your arms just naturally have to swing because of that, but there's no holding in them at all. So what we're looking to do here is to loosen up the muscles in our back. Okay, and then point the other direction. Put the other foot forward. And being aware of your feet touching the ground. And then just rotating your hips in a circle. Again, try to keep mind and body in the same place. And then just pushing to one side, twisting, holding. Try to have your spine upright. Back the other way. So twisting, holding. Again. And shake everything out. You face a bit of a wash with your hands. Put your hands together. Yeah, hands a bit of a squeeze. Okay, I'll do for today. Okay, so I think this morning, given the topic, might be interesting to just do a visualization meditation, something like that. So the the idea behind that is that one of the things about integration is kind of it's not just about bringing ourselves, the different parts of ourselves, into a coherent like relationship with each other, so that we we do what we say we're going to do and all that sort of thing. We're integrated on a kind of psychological level, but it's also about putting something at the center of our world, our mandala, which is transcendent, which is beyond ourselves, which has higher values than ourselves. So it's like we're collecting ourselves around a kind of higher value. So what we'll do is we'll do a visualization of the Buddha, Shakyamuni. So if you want to just close your eyes. And being aware of contact of your body with the seat that you're sitting on and the ground. And try to just let your body just sit there. So it's not like you're forcing your body in any way. You're kind of including it. So being aware of the structure of your body and where the bones are, where the muscles are, where the organs are. Try to get in line with the truth of that, so that you're not holding on to hold yourself up, but you're just letting the skeleton take the weight. And then the muscles of your body can just relax, like unfurling a fist. That's what the image is really for relaxation. It's just a physical thing. So ideally, your mind and emotions don't need to be occupied at all with your body. Your body, it just sits there, and they can just feel supported and free to engage with whatever they choose to engage with. And every time you notice that you're kind of getting occupied again with your body, or you're tensing up or anything like that, just repeating the previous instructions. Just come back to what your body is. Let your skeleton support your weight. Let go of any need to be in control of what's happening. Your body will just sit there and support you. So before we do any visualization of the Buddha, we need to visually set the context for that. So just imagining that instead of your body and your mind and the room that you're in and the world outside beyond the room that you're in, instead of all of that, what appears is a clear blue sky stretching in all directions, infinitely in all directions. So this clear blue sky is a symbol for something, and what it's a symbol of is the fact that the nature of everything is of the blue sky. So the nature of everything is that it appears in dependence on conditions and disappears when those conditions aren't present. So just as a cloud can appear in the sky when the moisture and heat and everything is right, conditions are right, in the same way, in this symbolic blue sky, a Buddha or enlightened being can appear in the world when the conditions are right. So just having a sense of the fact that there's a kind of fluidity to life. There's a fluidity to conditions, that things can be encouraged in one direction, if with awareness, with loving kindness. It's possible to create the conditions for happiness for ourselves and others. And if we create the conditions for it, it's also possible to create the conditions for unhappiness for ourselves and others. So just resting in this clear blue sky. It just expresses this law of conditionality that's behind everything. So all we're doing with this, with the visualization, is we're trying to, the main important thing about it is we're trying to kind of have a sense of the goal of Buddhism, a sense of the qualities that that it's possible to manifest in the world. So maybe have a sense of that first. Like, what is it that you really appreciate about the Buddha or the enlightened figures? Wisdom, compassion, energy, patience, understanding, and representing that in any way that you like. It might be that you represent it with just a general feeling, sense. Not everybody is fluid at imagining things visually. Might that you just have a feeling for it, a feeling for what enlightenment is, what it might be to be close to an enlightened person. Maybe if it helps, use figures from the Buddhist tradition that you respect, like maybe the Dalai Lama and what he's like. Just having a sense of this filling out and becoming more this image becoming more feeling, becoming more rich, more abundant. So enlightenment is said to be the greatest bliss. So can you think, just imagine, happy times for yourself where things have gone really well, what that was like, how rich that felt. Imagining the confidence that somebody must feel if they think, and I do understand how things work. I'm not thrown by anything in life. And this isn't just a myth that they're just imagining. That's a fantasy. It's based in actual experience. They kind of know. They know that they're no longer subject to old age, sickness, and death. Imagine how that feels. Imagine how calming that would make them. How calm that would make them. How confident. The Buddha was said to have touched the earth. And the earth goddess rose up and bore witness to the fact that he had got as far as a human being could get in terms of development. So now just beginning to, if you want to, if you can do visualization, not everybody can. Just like this sense of enlightenment, it's kind of like form itself into an image of the Buddha. So going back in time, 2,500 years ago, in space, over to India, and just imagining a forest, and imagining a big tree with heart-shaped leaves, Bodhi tree. And imagining a pile of grass. And on that grass is sitting a figure dressed in robes made out of bits of rags sewn together. Somebody who is a human being but also not really a human being anymore. So a human being that's become awake. And if you like, you can imagine some of the traditional iconography of the Buddha. He's sitting in meditation posture with his hands in his lap, his thumbs touching in the meditation mudra. He's gently smiling. He's completely calmed. It's said that he could sit in meditation for a week or even longer. Just imagining that. And he has a bump on the crown of his head. It's a symbol of his enlightenment, called Ujnisha. And a curl of white hair just between his eyebrows. And there's a powerful aura all around him, which expresses the power of his influence and personality. Maybe this aura is a deep, rich, dark gold colour, antique gold colour, radiating out in all directions. So if your mind wanders off, just don't worry about that. Just come back to your body, come back to blue sky as the field of kind of symbolic field that, you know, representing the fact of conditionality. The world as conditioned, and then the Buddha appearing within that blue sky as a possibility for humanity when the conditions are right, and also as a possibility for ourselves. And imagining the Buddha's influence radiating out into the world around him in India 2,500 years ago. People being affected by his presence, his calm appearance, his radiance, becoming his disciples. And history being affected by him, the Buddhist tradition coming down through the ages. Down to the present day. So now we're just going to allow the image that we've conjured up to gradually dissolve back into the blue sky. First, imagining the Buddha's aura, so antique gold aura, sort of withdrawing now into the body of the Buddha. And just imagining his symbolic form, the bump on top of his head and the marks, his marks, just dissolving. And we're left with a sense of just a general sense of feeling sense of the qualities of the Buddha there. Felt sense of him. And then just allowing that felt sense to gradually dissolve into this clear blue sky stretching in all directions. And that clear blue sky, that symbolic world, turns back into the world of appearances, the world as we know it. World outside, the world in the room that we're in, our body, our mental states. All of that comes back. So just bring your meditation to a close in your own time. Okay. I hope you got somewhere with that. Yeah, so the topic of today is like integration, but it's also, in a way, it's also the transcendent or transcendent image or transcendent center, unifying principle that needs to be at the center of things if we're to make some progress. So here's a diagram I did earlier in a previous session. So this is the mind, chitta. So the mind has like these three aspects: thought, emotion, and attention. And what can happen is that they can be pulling in different directions. So we can have a sort of sense that we want to give up smoking or something, but our emotion, our deeper fears. Emotions are often about what we want. So a fear is an emotion. It's like not wanting something really strongly. So our kind of deeper fears down in our kind of guts can be sort of going, no, I don't want to quit smoking, because the chemical effect is that the nicotine helps kind of block out maybe sort of uncomfortable feeling and stuff like that. So our emotions really don't want to give up smoking, but our mind, that's aware of our thoughts, that are aware of how much it costs and all that sort of thing, and it does. So we can be heading in two different directions, and just generally speaking, there's what can happen in life is that we're often sort of quite distracted. It's like we kind of look on the internet, and then we look at, we don't really know, we're not quite clear, what to do next in life or something. We might have been busy all day doing things, and then we get to a certain point, and then there's this space opens up in terms of like we don't really know what to do now, So we start just looking on the internet, and we find something, and from there we go to somewhere else, and there's that thing. Was it will thing? What was it I was looking for? I can't remember what we're looking for. So this is something called prapanca in Buddhism, or prapanca in Sanskrit, prapanca in Pali. So pancha is 5. So the 5 precepts are pancha sila. So this Thanissaro, the monk Thanissaro, talks about this as maybe this is the origin of the word prapanca, that it's this feeling of spreading out, that our mind is kind of spreading out and associating, we basically think we have this idea that we might be meditating, and we just have a thought about a holiday that we had like a couple of years ago before a pandemic, like in Cornwall or something, really beautiful rocky landscape by the sea in Cornwall, and we go, oh wow, we start to kind of remember it, and then we start to kind of think, oh yeah, when is that? Do you think I could do that again? And like when could I do that? And we start planning it, and so it's like our mind starts spreading out in that direction, and thinking and even imagining ourselves being there, and so it becomes, what was initial this little kind of seed of a thought becomes bigger and bigger in our mind, and so in a way, often this is what fantasy is about. We just kind of start fantasizing about things, and the Buddhist term for when our thinking is like when we're thinking about something is vichara. It's like chara means to move or roam. So it's like our mind is roaming around something. So when our mind kind of does that, when it roams around something, if that leads to happiness for ourselves and others, that's a good thing, But if it just leads to distraction, or if it leads to fantasy, if it just if those fantasies never come about, because that's the only problem with fantasy, is that it just, if it actually did come about, if it led to happiness in the future, then it would be all right, But if it just leads to fantasy, if it is just fantasy, then it in a way it's a sort of a source of suffering, So vichara isn't just, is applied both to things that lead to suffering, so mental proliferation or prapanca tends to lead to suffering, but also it can be applied to things that lead to happiness. So instead of spreading out like that, if we're doing this, if we're coming together around something, then and we're focused, then this is the positive side to reflection. So we can say to ourselves, what do I need to do to be happier? What do I need to do to bring about what I want to happen? Maybe I need to be disciplined about things. Maybe I need to put this condition in place and that condition in place. And that. So it's like this is about bringing things together. So, we bring together the ideas, with the practicality of something, and our emotion. We bring our emotions in. We try and motivate ourselves in that direction. So in this way, we're kind of coming together, you know, into, and we're actually bringing what we want to happen into the world. So this is like the opposite of prapanca. This is you know, this is a sort of creative reflection. So yeah, I was just doing some work on my book on the imagination chapter, and looking again at the ideas of Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who's the Romantic poet. You know, around the time of the French Revolution, that sort of time, late 1700s, and so what you know, what Coleridge he thinking of fantasy, you know, he called it fancy. You know, in those days, like what was happening was like the Industrial Revolution was just really kind of everything, you know, just dominated everything, you know. So the idea of making scientific progress and technological progress, and you know, Blake talked about the dark satanic mills up here in the north, you know, of England, and so the Romantic poets were sort of trying to kind of, in a way, what had happened was like imagination had come to be seen a bit as like just to do with fantasy, you know. And in a way, science has a bit of a similar critique of it today, you know, like, oh yeah, it's just you know, Richard Dawkins, you know, wonders whether children should be kind of exposed to things that are you know, that are kind of fantastical, and you think, you know, maybe they should have more scientific kind of training or whatever, you know. So there's a kind of view there that all imagination is just fantasy, you know, it just leads nowhere. So what Coleridge did was he, to distinguish his view of imagination from fantasy, he invented a word. So that word is this, esemplastic. So plastic is to shape, you know, like plasticine. This is the Greek, eis en platien, you know, to shape into one. So, you know, when we're kind of, you know, when we're sort of, it's a bit like this same thing, you know, this coming together, you know, this bringing things together, shaping ourselves into one. So what we need to do is to, you know, what imagination helps us do is it helps bring our emotions on board, you know, with you know, with our vision, you know, our goal or whatever it is. So in that visualization, what kind of it was inviting you to do is like to try and kind of bring what you're excited about on board, you know, with Buddhism, you know, so looking for the qualities that inspire you in the Buddha, you know, and trying to sort of imagine them and have a sense of them, and that they're there, you know, and that they, you know, that maybe you could have qualities like that. So yeah, yeah. So that image of the Buddha is a kind of symbol, and Coleridge talked about symbols as being the living educts of the imagination. So what's an educt? So an educt in chemistry is a substance separated from a mixture in which it already existed. So it's like the, you know, there's the Buddha, who's the, you know, the reality of the Buddha, and then the symbol of the Buddha, which is the visualization, is like drawn out from that. But it kind of, you could sort of say, it kind of stands in the place of it. It's the same thing as, you know. So it's kind of like really important to, in a way, kind of like believe, let your emotions kind of believe in that symbol, in that you know, as kind of like representing the Buddha. And I mean, it's interesting that, I mean, I've had a bit of a career as an artist, and so when I kind of first got involved in Buddhism, back in, it was in summer of '88, and you know, we've got a meditation retreat centre called Vajraloka in Wales, and so I think probably one of the first times I went there was in 1990, and I was kind of in, it's probably for a week long meditation retreat, and I've often been, my art has often been a bit around, I've really enjoyed bright colours and stuff, and I was getting kind of some quite powerful experiences of like fluidity of mind and emotions in the meditations, you know. So I kind of represented it in this picture. This sense of fluid mind. This is 18th of July 1990. So I think in doing this picture, it was like I was kind of helping remind. Well, it does, when I look at it, it reminds me of those sorts of states, those kind of like higher mental states that are very pleasurable. You know, that sense of fluidity when, you know, it's like nothing's getting in the way of your, you know, kind of happiness flowing around, really. Yeah, I did some other images at the time. Here's one of like a couple of hands, just, you know, the idea of just holding something, you know, emotionally, like holding, you know, caring for, like loving kindness, caring for yourself, caring for others. So all kind of helps bring me emotions on board. You know. And here's a picture I took in Bodh Gaya. So Bodh Gaya is in India, and it's the site of the Buddha's enlightenment. So, you know, in the visualization, I was talking about a tree, the Bodhi tree. So he gained enlightenment under a tree. And so what this is a kind of stone, kind of, it's like a stone sort of enclosure around the actual tree where the Buddha is said to have gained enlightenment, the Bodhi tree. This is in Bodh Gaya in India. And here's a couple of Indian order members, and what's happened here is this stone is just covered in gold leaf. So what people do is they come along with gold leaf and they rub it into the stone as a sign of respect, you know, and devotion towards the Buddha. And then you get these flower garlands that you can buy outside the temple, and people would bring them, or like a plate of flowers that you're just kind of offering, like brightly coloured chrysanthemums. Fantastic, you know, it's like 10p or something. You know, offer a plate of flowers to the site of the Buddha's enlightenment. So in this way, it's like again, you know, we're bringing our emotions on board, you know, into contact with the you know, thing that we kind of most value. And so we've got this sense of prapanca, this kind of like spreading, the idea of spreading out, where becoming more dispersed and sort of disintegrating in a way, as one kind of movement, and then we've got this other idea of this kind of coming together of like increasing kind of focus, integration of the different parts of ourselves, So I think what can happen is like when we, we're trying to make progress, and we want to change. We want to become a different sort of person. We want to become, more calm, more concentrated, all that sort of thing. Then often, but then we're surrounded by people who are doing something different. We're surrounded by people who are just spending endless amounts of time on the internet and kind of not really focusing very much. Well, they've got a vague sense of their lives and what they want to do with them, but it's very vague and comes and goes. It's chaotic even. So when you're surrounded by people like that, they're going to be encouraging you to be like them. So it's really helpful to have other people around you who think along the similar lines, who have similar values that they want to bring about for themselves. So yeah, so it's kind of helpful to for integration to part of the conditions is that we we sort of try and create the conditions whereby our values come about, So what we can do, what we have is something called a mandala. So this is a mandala. So the psychologist Jung was very much into mandalas. What this is a Tibetan sand mandala. So basically, I saw a bunch of Tibetan monks doing one of these at Manchester Town Hall, and what they have is they have these like little kind of funnels with different coloured sand, and they just tap them, and the sand comes out of the end, and they just construct this kind of beautiful shape out of coloured sand, and it's like a devotional practice. So these different, it's like a five. There's a central square in the middle there, and then you've got four cardinal points. So what this represents a kind of it's like a grouping of enlightened. You could say it's like enlightened qualities, So you might have wisdom and compassion, and you've got like energy and beauty or something like that, So you can divide enlightenment. You get bodhisattvas who represent different qualities, and they form a mandala. They form a mandala which represents the sum total of all enlightened qualities. So what's at the middle is the most important thing, and then around it are arranged other qualities. So what we can do is we can look at our lives, and we can sort of, as a mandala. So this is a mandala. This is one I did about the same time I did that drawing, in about 1990 or something, And so what I've represented here is like the things that are most important to me. So here I've got the Buddhist Centre in West London, Buddhist Centre. And here I've got the youth office. So I worked as a youth worker in sort of the early 1990s in Fulham and Chelsea. So that was quite important to me. That I think that gave me a great sense of community at the time, being part of something. And it was a lot of fun, And then I've got other things around. So success is a bit on the edge of the mandala here. So it's not as important. Bunch of friends here. Getting ready for ordination was quite important. That's there. Impressing people and the ego is it's not on the edge, but it's not in the middle either. Enjoyment, a bit on the edge. So it's like we can take our lives, look at the patterns there, like put our friends, put our work, put our, pleasures of life, our kind of hobbies or whatever, and we can sort of see what's most important to us and what's not as important. And we can ask, do we need to actually bring some things closer into the center? Do we need to focus on some things more? That are we ignoring things that are important? So what in the journey in the guide, what Maitreya Bandhu talks about in chapter 2 is that we need a sort of unifying principle. So in here, I do have the Buddhist center in the middle there. So it's like that was the unifying principle that I'm trying to. My life's constellating around. So that unifying principle needs to be something that's beyond me, that's transcendent. We just did that visualization of the Buddha. So it's like, if you do something like regularly, come to the Buddhist center, come to these classes. It's like you're sort of trying to put the transcendent, the Buddha or similar, something similar in the center of your world, and then you have this happening, this esemplastic to shape into one. So it's like you're shaping your life. So you start to behave more ethically. You start to hang around with ethical people. They then encourage you to be more ethical. They support that, and then your life starts to have a positive feedback loop. You get this sense of flow, in the psychological sense, that where your challenges and your skills are matched. Things are happening in life. This is what happened back in the early 90s. What I noticed after I'd been involved in Buddhism about a couple of years was that I would think of something. I'd dream of something. I'd dream of, maybe I could teach meditation or something like that. And that'd be a fantasy at the time. But I'd find that about 18 months later, I was teaching meditation. It's like things start to work, come together. So, things start to shape into one, So I think that's it, really. Just to sum up, imagine integration is about sort of bringing together the different parts of yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your attention, which can pull in different directions. So it's good to kind of work on that and try to become more whole, more. So the word samadhi, which can mean concentration, also means, and it's a term for meditation, means same direction. So it's like all of you is going in the same direction. So that's when you're really going to be potent and successful is when you're bringing all the different parts of yourselves in the same direction. You're not kind of like going to work and then you go in for your pleasure somewhere else. In a way, your work is you get pleasure from your work. Your vocation or something like that. So so it's just worth bearing all this in mind. And then so you've got this thing of being coherent, not distracted. but also firstly, but then also having some this higher sort of force or something that's coming into that, that's informing that. So it's like it's breaking, somehow the Buddha is breaking into your mundane life and affecting it. So there's a transcendent center to your experience, to your life. That's, your life is perfumed by this transcendent vision and stuff, which is all about, like how happiness can be brought to all beings everywhere in a real sort of, in a real way. That actually, where it actually happens, it's embodied. It's not an idea. It's not a fantasy. So yeah. So just I'll just finish with showing some of it. I want to get my artworks out into the world a bit more, because they just sit in folders and things at home here. So here's a drawing I did of the road over the Pennines from Manchester to Sheffield. That's a cloud on the horizon there, and I really like this. I mean, one, it was done on the move. Obviously we were driving over the hill, and it's an image. Well, in a way, it's almost like it's an image of the path, isn't it? It's like a journey. The journey in the guide. So this is a journey. So I've often had this as a myth: is the journey, the path, the road, the motorway, going somewhere, that sort of thing. Here's a drawing of Mogavamsa from Sheffield Buddhist Centre. Here's some just sketch of some water. Yeah, here's as I would travel through. I used to do a lot of hitchhiking. I did about 70,000 miles in the end. So this is just like impressions traveling along a motorway, or there's like a jet. That's a sort of petrol station, telegraph poles. Some sort of building in Leeds. So this sort of all this sort of thing does meet. This is going across. So Sleaford Industrial Estate. This is travelling from Manchester to Norwich, Padmaloka. You can sort of see that sort of church there in the background. I don't know. I think this might have been in Lanzarote or something like that. Yeah, so sort of doing things like drawings definitely kind of helps this sense of vision and things. Where am I going? I think what I liked about doing those drawings is often it's like it's capturing a particular moment in time, and sort of saying, actually, this was valuable, this moment, I enjoyed this. Here it is, blah, 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 Okay, well, I'm glad that I managed to get some colour into today's session after feeling sort of. I mean, I didn't get to sleep till I don't know what might have been 3:30 or something. But anyway, yeah, got through it. We got through it. So next session is on Friday, and yeah, I'm not quite sure what we're going to do yet, but that was good. I enjoyed that. Thank you. All right then. See you later. Bye.